Wow. Check this out. This is not expected. And when the woman saw Samuel, she cried out with a loud voice, and the woman spake to Saul, saying, Why hast thou deceived me? For thou art Saul. And the king said unto her, Be not afraid. What sawest thou? And the woman said unto Saul, I saw gods ascending out of the earth.
Discussing the topics your church won't touch. The Christian Theological Dark Web Podcast.
Dark Web Theologians and 4 Dragon Friends. Nice to have you on. I think that's a good intro, don't you?
Hey, cats and dolls. Sure.
Oh, wow. Jeez, that was dry and drab. Jeez. Yes, it's lovely.
Yes. I will accept it tonight.
Okay. Guys, good to be on with you. We have a guest. You guys, if you're watching, will already see that Mr. Austin Cox, also known as Shy Guy Theological Seminary, is on with us, hanging out tonight. This is a long-anticipated episode, and we've been wanting to do it for a while. We actually have another one that's on the horizon that we will be talking about, which I think Shell will be able to vibe a little bit more with because it's all megaliths, right? Megaliths are crazy cool.
Great.
Yeah.
I mean, I like the ghosty thing. I just am not super familiar with the culture, with Eastern culture, but I like it. Yeah. It's very interesting. I just won't have a lot to offer.
It's not that you don't have a lot to offer. It's just that Eastern culture is like a humongous hodgepodge.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
It's really hard to know like what one thing means and what one thing doesn't mean. I'm sure you, Austin, you'll be able to attest to this, and we're just going to kind of hop in this way, guys, kind of willy-nilly. But willy-nilly. But honestly, even for me, like studying this stuff, it was just like, well, I don't know what that means. Or like, I remember in particular, I was trying to, funniest thing of all, I read this Japanese author's book in Spanish just because I was like, I'm going to read it in Spanish. Why not? I didn't find it in English. I found it in Spanish. So I read it. And the ending was like,
I bet.
Yeah, it was very cool. And the ending was like, huh? What? What does that mean? And I asked a Korean buddy of mine. He's like, yeah, dude, Japanese are they're weird, man. What can I tell you? They have very weird perspective on it.
Yeah, what's so bad about it is I can hear one of my good friends who's a pastor from South Korea saying that exact same thing. The exact same thing.
It's not to say Koreans don't have their own weird beliefs and ideas for sure, but yeah, he was just like, I don't even know, bro. He's like, I don't know. It's a Japanese thing. Oh, fair enough, So with that.
Well, I mean, you're on an island in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah.
Like they're the rest of civilization has no idea you exist or doubts whether or not you exist. You're going to come up with some weird stuff.
It's true. And if it's coming out of China and that's where you kind of associate with, it's going to be weird too, for sure.
Oh, good Lord, yeah.
Hey, but I think the Aussies are very normal.
Okay.
You do realize it was a prison colony, right?
I do. That's why, because there's enough. I mean, other than the Aborigines, but yeah,
right.
I love Australia.
Yeah, I think when the British got there and they had this British colony that they were dropping off, this British prison colony, that is, they were like, oh, terrifying creatures everywhere. Yep, this is where we're leaving the prisoners. They're going to stay right here.
Well, what's so bad about it is a lot of these people probably weren't even like horrible criminals. Like they were just so desperate to like kill the overcrowding in London and stuff like that.
Jeez.
Like they were like just pulling people for like.
It was like, here are your choices: America, the gallows, or Australia. Take your pick.
Well, the whole reason Australia became a thing is because we won our independence, and we basically told them like, "Hey, you can't send your prisoners over here anymore. Like, we're not going to allow that."
Yeah,
sounds familiar, don't it?
Yeah, well, that's actually not what we're talking about today, boys and girls. But it is a very interesting bit of information, nonetheless.
Right.
We are talking about ghosts today, And actually, more specifically, we'll be talking really kind of largely about. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right. I took like one semester of Japanese, but it's pretty close, so we're gonna go with it. I never know where to put the accent in Japanese.
I don't either. I'm pulling this out of my rear.
Yeah, I just sort of wing it. I'm like, oh, that's not Yude. And people are like, oh, wow, that sounds good. You speak a very good Japanese. I'm like, nah, not really, dude. I'm just winging it. But yeah, we're going to be talking about that today, guys. It's going to be a very interesting episode. We've been waiting for a long, long time to do it. But first, we had mentioned we kind of want to get into this topic about what ghosts are. And I think probably, debatably, the most recognized occurrence biblically that we can think of is probably the summoning of Samuel's spirit in the Old Testament by the Witch of Endor. Now, I also, I mean, there is also kind of some anecdotal stuff that we can look at in the New Testament, right? Like when the disciples see Jesus walking on the water, it's a ghost, you know?
It's Peter's ghost at the gate.
Yeah, it's a ghost, right? Typical response, which is very interesting. So, I mean, clearly there was this, I don't want to say affinity, but there was definitely like a recognition of this kind of stuff, right? Let's actually read this real quick, because I was actually looking at a very interesting kind of, circumstantially, I was looking at that passage in is it First Kings? I forget now. I think it's First Kings 28. Let me see, guys. I'm gonna pull it up real quick here.
Witch of Endor?
Yeah, it is First Kings 28. Look at me. Oh, First Samuel. Sorry, First Samuel 28. Yeah, the Witch of Endor. And so I kind of want to just read through it, and you guys can feel free to stop me anywhere if there's something that jumps out at you. No pun intended. And I want you guys just to, we'll just kind of take it from there. And then once we kind of have a basis for like kind of what we think we believe this phenomena is, because I'm not going to pretend to tell you guys like I have a really, really good idea. But I mean, it's actually something I'm not really super sure on. So we'll just kind of take it that way, one step at a time. So let me pull this bad boy up real quick. Should I put it on screen? Let's put it on screen real quick. Let's do that. This is, again, 1 Samuel 28. Mm-hmm. Cool. All right. So it says, in those days, the Philistines gathered their forces for war to fight Israel, as one does. And Achish, I guess, said to David, understand that you and your men are to go out with me in the army. This is the New English, ESV, by the way, sorry. David said to Achish, I'm assuming that's how you pronounce it, very well, you shall know what your servant can do. And Achish said to David, very well, I will make you my bodyguard for life. This is a very interesting story, by the way, too, just in general. David teaming up with the opposing side. Now Samuel had died, and all Israel had mourned for him and buried him in Ramah, his own city. And Saul had put the mediums and the necromancers out of the land, as he should have. The Philistines assembled and came and encamped at Shunem. And Saul gathered all Israel, and they encamped at Gilboa. When Saul saw the armies of the Philistines, he was afraid, and his heart trembled greatly. And when Saul inquired of the Lord did not answer him, either by dreams or by Urim or by the prophets. If I remember right, correct me if I'm wrong, guys, the stones that basically on the ephod that gave the yes or the no, right?
The no, right.
Yeah. So like he was not getting any kind of responses. Then Saul said to his servants, seek out for me a woman who is a medium, always a good choice, that I may go to her and inquire of her. And his servants said to him, behold, there is a medium at Endor. Every time I hear Endor, I don't know about you guys, but it always reminds me of Lord of the Rings.
It's me a Star Wars.
Yeah, well, there you go. Oh, that is right. It is Endor.
Endora. Bewitched. The old TV show. Samantha's mother's name was Endora. I'm sure it was on purpose.
Yeah, it seems like a very appropriate
name, right?
So Saul disguised himself, as the kings of that time did, and put on other garments and went, and he and 2 men with him. And they came to the woman by night, and he said, divine for me by a spirit, and bring up for me whoever I shall name to you. The woman said to him, surely you know what Saul has done, how he has cut off the mediums and necromancers of the land. Why then are you laying a trap for my life to bring about death? This here stands out to me, that it's curious to me that the necromancers and the diviners are the ones that bring up ghosts. But I just, I'm just saying this as an aside, and you guys can take it if you want, and we can roll with it. But it's just interesting to me because I don't know that there necessarily has to be a human impetus all the time for, in fact, most times, right? Like these are kind of like supernatural occurrences that are where they are, and they kind of like catch us off guard usually, right? Like they're not something we're expecting. Whereas in this case, like there's actually like calling up the soul of the dead or calling up the spirit of the dead, which is Saul in this case. Any thoughts on that, guys?
Well, that's what a necromancer is.
Well, sure,
It
sure,
is.
but
It is one who summons the dead.
yes. Well, I understand that. I just think it's interesting that like really the only real time in the Old Testament we actually have like a ghost type figure is when someone summons it. It's very interesting to me. I don't know. I don't know what to make of that. I never have known what to make of that.
Well, it's also interesting what the spirit of Samuel, if it truly is his spirit, says. Doesn't he say like, "Why have you disturbed my rest?"
He does. He does. Should I keep reading?
Yeah, go for it.
And everything in the passage makes you believe that it was indeed Samuel.
It was Samuel.
Because
I don't think it was
that's what the
deception
witch says. I don't either. I don't think it was a demon that was summoned. I think it was the real deal. And I think that's why we're told not to do it. God never puts, he doesn't waste his time or his breath with what he commands from us.
Right.
If he commands us not to do something, it's because it is doable.
Right.
You know, when he says, have no other gods, it's because there are other gods. When he says, don't summon the dead, it's because to some degree that has to be possible.
There is dead summoning. Yeah.
Although your chances are probably way better of summoning the spirit of dead Nephilim than dead humans.
Well, yes. Well, because
it's like Ed Warren always said about the Ouija board. I think it was Ed Warren that said this. When you play with the spirit board or anything of that sort, what you're doing is you're basically picking up an old school payphone. You're making a collect call to the other side, and anybody can answer it.
I love that.
So, I mean, like, that's exactly what some of these people are doing.
Yeah, and you're living on the main thoroughfare, opening up your door and saying, "Come on in," and taking your chances.
Now, necromancy is exactly what people are doing when they play with a Ouija board. Necromancy, by definition, is supplicating the dead for hidden knowledge. It's not at all like, I hear a lot of Catholics get, accused of necromancy. It's two totally different things. Asking for prayer from a brother or sister in glory is far different from summoning the spirit of a dead relative to find treasure buried in the backyard, or
pretty drastically different.
It's a huge, stark difference.
Well, and there's a difference between participating in necromancy and being a necromancer.
Right.
Exactly.
When he said, go find me a necromancer or a medium, he was saying, go find somebody who we know is sensitive to the spirit realms. Who is successful in it, and bring them to me.
Right.
It wasn't, hey, let's light some candles and see if I can figure this thing out on my own. And it was an act of desperation for Saul because God went silent.
Yes.
Yep.
And there's so many Christians who participate in lots of, shall we call it, necromancy light. I mean, that's what having your palm read or your aura read or the tarot cards done for you, or throwing the lots. I mean, even the Magic 8 Ball is kind of it's necromancy light.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying if you have a magic 8 ball that you need to cleanse your house, and that's between you and God.
Heresy.
Maybe you do. I mean, I know that there are a lot of Christians who are like, don't play the lottery, that's sinful because you're gambling. And I'm like, apparently you don't understand what Purim is, and apparently you don't understand how they figured out who was going into the Holy of
Yeah.
Holies.
Yeah. For sure.
But
That was
it's
something
just
you didn't want to win.
no kidding, man. You better make
Jeez, yeah.
sure that you
Got your affairs in order.
all of
Yeah.
them.
Yeah.
Don't cut yourself shaving either. Sheesh.
Yeah.
But so I think where I was going with that is while you may not be a medium, but if you play around with any of these things that seem innocuous, you can be opening doors.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's really good. You made a good point. I had never thought about the fact that anytime you summon a spirit, it's a necromancy. That's exactly what it is. I'd never considered that that's the case, but that's exactly what it is. The summoning of a spirit is a dead spirit, right? Like there's no
Yeah.
I mean, I guess unless you think you can summon maybe one of the head honchos, right? Like one of the guys that's running, like actually running the place. Then maybe I guess that would be different. But I would say almost always, like 99.999 to how many decimal points would always be necromancy, like because these are all dead things, all of them.
Yeah.
Well, and anything that is not redeemed is dead. So if you're
Yes.
talking about
Well, fair.
summoning one of the fallen sons of God,
Yeah, I am.
they're just eternally dead. They're
Yeah.
unregenerate.
That's an interesting idea.
So,
Well,
I mean, the only living spirit that you could try to conjure would be the Holy Ghost. And
you don't need to conjure him for that. He just show up, dude.
I mean, if you're trying to rule God, then you are your own God.
Yep.
The Holy Spirit's just hanging out in the ether, so there's no need to be like, "Hey, are you there, dude? Like,
I
can you
don't know.
come?"
He
Like
abides
showing
within
up.
me, so
Yes, well, correct. But for a non-believer, he's not going to force his way through the door. He's most gentlemanly spirit that there is, to be honest.
that's because when you have all the power, you don't have to make a show of it.
Right. What are those fireworks for? He's compensating. That's really good, man. That's good. Any thoughts before I continue? I'm going to keep reading the story unless you guys have any other
No, go
thoughts.
ahead, finish it off.
Go
Okay,
for
cool.
it.
Let's do it. So, good old Saul disguising himself, and poor Miss Endor Witch says, "You are laying a trap for my life to bring about my death." But Saul swore to her by the Lord, "As the Lord lives, no punishment shall come upon you for this thing." Then the woman said, I'm very interested that she just is like, okay, cool, I guess we're good. Like, why does she just trust some guy she has no idea about? But whatever.
Right.
Right? Isn't that weird? Then the woman
Just for the
said,
money, I guess. Hey, look,
yeah,
I mean, you think about it, like all her people are either dead or they've been run out of the country.
yeah,
So she's probably desperate to make a buck. I mean, it's
yeah.
no telling what Saul promised her if
Good
she would
point.
do it.
Yes and no, but she's probably again legitimate, and it is highly likely that she already knew the time of her own death.
Yeah.
And
Interesting.
this would not be it. Like there's
So you think she was like asked to do this kind of caught her off guard, like, oh, what? Like, really? Kind of thing. And she was like, well, I didn't expect it to come right now.
Mhm.
You know what I'm saying? Like her death, like
right. I don't think she was afraid of her death. I think maybe she was like, "Oh no, I shouldn't. You don't really want me to do this." Or think of every cop show you've ever watched when the detective is undercover and the bad guy smells a rat and
yeah.
he's like, "You're not a cop, are you?" And the cop's like, "No, of course not. How dare you say such a thing about me?" And then what happens at the end of the scene? I knew you were a filthy pig,
So
or whatever. And so
up.
I think it may have been a little bit of a that thing going on. Who knows? Honestly, we are looking at this from a 21st century Western point of view, and it would require probably some more study to understand the true context of what was what.
Fair enough.
I mean, we see God's response to all this, though.
Yeah. Okay, I'll continue. So then it says, then the woman said, "Who shall I bring up for you?" He said, "Bring up Samuel for me." When the woman saw Samuel, she cried out with a loud voice. And the woman said to Saul, "Why have you deceived me? You are Saul." Then the king said to her, "Do not be afraid. What do you see?" And the woman said to Saul, "I see a God coming up out of the earth." Ooh, I'm really glad that's the interesting translation. He said to her, "What is his appearance?" And she said, "An old man is coming up, and he is wrapped in a robe," which is also interesting. And Saul knew that it was Samuel, and he bowed his face to the ground and paid homage. Then Samuel said to Saul, "Why have you disturbed me by bringing me up?" Saul answered, "I am in great distress, for the Philistines are warring against me, and God has turned away from me and answers me no more, either by prophets or by dreams. Therefore, I have summoned you to tell me what I should do, what I shall do." And Samuel said, "Why then do you ask me, since the Lord has turned from you and become your enemy? The Lord has done to you as he spoke by me. For the Lord has torn the kingdom out of your hand and given it to your neighbor David, because you did not obey the voice of the Lord and did not carry out his fierce wrath against Amalek. Therefore the Lord has done this thing to you this day. Moreover, the Lord will give Israel also with you into the hand of the Philistines, and tomorrow you and your sons shall be with me. The Lord will give the army of Israel also into the hand of the Philistines. And I really think this is also very interesting, and I'll tell you guys why in a second. Then Saul fell at once, full length on the ground, filled with fear because of the words of Samuel. And there was no strength in him, for he had eaten nothing all day and all night. And the woman came to Saul, and when she saw that he was terrified, she said to him, "Behold, your servant has obeyed you. I have taken my life in my hand and have listened to what you have said to me. Now, therefore, you also obey your servant. Let me set a morsel of bread before you and eat, that you may have strength when you go on your way." He refused and said, "I will not eat." But the servants sat together and with the woman urged him, and he listened to their words. So he arose from the earth and sat on the bed. Now the woman had a fattened calf in the house, and she quickly killed it, and she took flour and kneaded it and baked unleavened bread of it, and she put it before Saul and his servants, and they ate. Then they rose and went away that night. Okay.
And then tomorrow Saul died and was no longer king.
So, yes, good point.
He suffered the price.
Yes, and he also
for the necromancy instead of her suffering it. It's really interesting.
Which is only a fair trade, to be honest.
Well, there is always a trade. That's the thing. There is always payment for this type of thing. Always, usually blood or money is always required. And in this case, Saul had, excuse me, to whom much is given is much required. And he had much, and his requirement was his life.
Yep.
He really ought to have known better. He caused the cursing of the entire nation, of his whole nation, of all of Israel, by participating in that abomination. And so it wasn't just himself and his sons that died the next day. It was Israel. Israel suffered for it. And that's something that honestly we need to be kind of aware of with our own governments, that we are aware that there are plenty of them dabbling like this, and we need to stand against it in prayer and in supplication. At the very least, we need to be praying that if our leaders are doing evil things, that God will not require of the whole nation.
Yeah, no kidding.
Recompense for it.
Especially not Mike Pence. Sorry, that was a crappy joke. Sorry, not sorry. Yeah, and I was literally just looking this up right now, and I was thinking, where else do we find ghosts in the Bible? Well, apparently that's actually not the word that's ever used in the Bible, ever.
No, it's usually not.
Well, you know where that word... So I just looked this up, and if we are to believe the AI overview on Google, the word ghost appears in the King James Version of the Bible 108 times. But check this out. But it's never used to refer to a disembodied spirit. Yeah, it is very interesting.
It's going to be Holy Ghost most of the time.
Yeah, or it's going to be something like... I think that's a majority, but there probably is also like the occasion with Peter, like you mentioned, the occasion of Jesus walking on the water. Obviously, probably this occasion. I'm not 100% sure. Let me actually look it up real quick. But I'm assuming that's probably where we're gonna most see that kind of thing.
Disembodied spirit, his lowercase e, Elohim.
Yeah,
those are usually... So you'll have ruach, and you'll have Shelley. Why can't... Well, Elohim usually as the two, or little g God, because they all denote the same thing. Some body not living in the material realm.
Wow. Check this out. This is not expected. I'm just going to read this to you guys real quick. And when the woman saw Samuel, and when... This is the KJV. And when the woman saw Samuel, she cried out with a loud voice, and the woman spake to Saul, saying, Why hast thou deceived me? For thou art Saul. And the king said unto her, Be not afraid. What sawest thou? And the woman said unto Saul, I saw gods ascending out of the earth.
So more than one. Yeah. Now that'd be way more interesting to read.
Yeah. Now I'm really
curious or the Masoretic, to see what the old Greek.
And I read the NET, the New English translation, and it said a divine being, which I was like, oh, okay, good.
Which is what God's
and Elohim,
spirits
right?
are.
And Aloha or El.
Right.
It is really interesting. So the only thing I want to point out here, because this is very good. I've actually really never done a deep dive on the etymology on this, and it's very interesting that it's just all spirits, which is kind of hilarious that we've given these no pun intended, buddy, Anglican kind of views on what the Bible actually meant with those kind of things, right? And so we've ascribed ghost to human spirit, and we've ascribed demon to Nephilim spirit, so to speak, right?
Yeah.
Or dark spirit, or whatever else.
And then angel to everything else.
Right, exactly. Messenger, because that's all they ever do. They're just, all right, I'm going here. I'm going. Imagine how annoyed these poor guys are. They're like, dude, we have other jobs and other things that we do. Like,
yeah, for real.
We don't.
Hey, I'm a minister. Thank you very much. We are ministering to you.
Like, I know you guys. I know you guys are Protestant. But if you ever want to read a really cool story about an angel, check out the Book of Tobit in the Apocrypha. Like, even if it's not canon, it's still a really good read.
Right.
And it details what the Hebrews of that period believed about angels. And Raphael is a pretty cool dude.
It's my favorite Ninja Turtle. I'm joking. I'm joking.
Well, hey, look,
Michelangelo was the coolest of the turtles. Thank you very much.
Yeah, he kind of was.
It was Mike.
Rapha's
okay.
Raph was always pissed.
I'm going to go a little bit nerdy here with the language. So Rapha, I think, means shepherd, doesn't it?
No, Rapha means healer. Yeah,
healer.
So basically, it means healer sent by God. So Raphael.
Right. God is my healing.
Healer of God, or the healing of God. Yeah, I mean, they didn't choose the right name in the Ninja Turtles. He's super aggressive and angry, but it is what it is. What was I going to tell you guys? Oh, what's very curious to me is the fact that it's kind of twofold, but it's one and the same. Almost any time there was divine encounter with humans, there was a need to eat and rest.
Yep.
And
well, again, because there's an exchange. I was listening to a lady, I don't know her name.
Nice.
She's a Christian now, but when she was about 13, she became a medium. And
Oh,
she's
wow.
like from Long Island. Speaking of accents there, Austin. But
Yeah.
she came from a Catholic background, but not really. They were like cultural
Yeah.
Catholics, yeah, like cultural Christians, same as you are when you're Italian and you're from the northern seaboard,
Yeah.
But she was talking about how she could never do a reading for free. You are not allowed to do a reading for free. Even if it's just a penny, there has to be an exchange made. There always has to be an exchange made.
Wow, that's
And
interesting.
that's it.
Well, of
When she had
course.
said that, it really impressed upon me, and that's why the story of Saul makes so much sense.
Ton of time.
There's an exchange made. Jesus' blood was the ultimate
Exactly. That's exactly what I was
exchange
thinking.
made in all the realms.
A contractual exchange.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, and
Wow.
that's what those end up being too.
Yeah.
You pay somebody to do a reading for you, or to summon, a loved one, or to tell
Sure.
you what your future may hold for you.
Mhm.
And it's going to cost something.
Yeah.
And
Well, I
if
think
you're foolish enough to not pay, not realize there needs to be a payment,
It'll be charged.
well, and I wonder what kind of havoc then that wreaks
Sheesh.
in your life. I wonder how many times something like a poltergeist or a haunting has been caused by somebody who didn't realize the ramifications. And honestly, I'm not saying know what you're doing before you do it. I really am a proponent of the don't do it. God told you
right.
not to do
Right?
it for a very good reason. But like
Exactly.
my mom played with the Ouija board before she got pregnant with me, and she got
My
pregnant
dad
with
did
me when
too.
she was 14. So it was shortly before that, and the entity messing around told her she would have two children, a boy and a girl, or a girl and a boy, and told her different things. And I remember my mom telling me it was totally legit, man. But for me, I've known truly my whole life to stay away from
Oh
all of
yeah.
those things. I've always believed in it. I probably believe in it more than most other people do, which is why I have not ever dabbled in it at all. But it's real. And these spirits will tell you, they won't. We're like, oh, they all lie. No, they'll tell you truths.
Oh yeah.
Uh, the Satan wasn't completely lying when he asked Eve, did God say? He knew to have enough truth in it,
Yep.
in his assertion that it was believable.
Yeah.
And that's what they do.
Satan cannot create. The only thing that he can do is pervert, copy, and cheapen. Those
Right.
are the only things that he can do.
He
But
bends the
talk.
things.
But I just wanted to kind of hammer in on this before I forget.
Do it.
You're talking about the need for food and rest. After a supernatural encounter like that,
Yeah.
whether we like to admit it or not, as Christians, humans have energy. And I'm not talking about like the spiritual energy. I mean, we do have that, but energy like electricity that like
Right.
powers our body.
Obviously, it's why we
These
need
entities,
electrolytes.
exactly. Why, whatever these entities are, they run off of that. And I mean, that's why, when you go on a paranormal investigation, you might have a fully charged cell
Mm.
phone and
Right.
some crazy crap happens. And the
The
next thing you
battery
know,
in your
you're battling.
car, the battery in your camera, yeah, all the things, the blurriness of
Yep.
the
The
video, the
situation.
photos,
Yep.
like That seems to be a very well-established, I hesitate, aspect. That's better than saying fact. Yes.
Yeah. Austin, that's a really good point, dude. Man, I don't know what God's doing. I can't really reveal why this came up because it's kind of under wraps. But I will say this topic of energy, and in particular light and electricity, keeps coming up a lot. And I'm not, and Shelly knows exactly what I'm talking about, but I'm not even looking for it, but it just keeps rearing its cute little head everywhere I go. Is that there's
well, like because it's part of universal truth. That's why.
Yes, it is. It absolutely is. And it's, I mean, long story short, it's all the ether, dude. It literally is all the ether. And I was telling Shell and Jesse, one of our other hosts, I'm sure you've seen him before, just on Tuesday, that I really believe that the quantum field, which is the ether, time constraints will restrict us from going over that whole explanation, but we'll suffice it to say that they're the same thing. And because of that, I truly, 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 truly believe that that is the scroll that is rolled up at the end of time.
Yep.
That God rolls up the actual ether itself, and everything's written on it, and everything's recorded on it, and he just wraps that bad boy up and starts fresh, just like he says he will.
Yep.
But yeah, that's very interesting. So I know, I mean, this is a new concept for me too, dude. It's not something I've been like.
Energy in and of itself cannot be created nor destroyed.
Right. Sure.
So it has to be in constant existence. It's going somewhere
to its source,
out
right?
From somewhere.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, and that's kind of the oxymoron of the ether itself, right? Because the ether is essentially what because scientists hate that word now, dude. They hate that word now. So they call it 0 point energy now. But it's the same concept.
Or
it's
plasma.
Or plasma, if you want. You know, it's the fourth state of matter or the higher state of matter. Right. But you're totally on point with that about us being electrical, current-filled, light-filled creatures like we are, you know, and we have lost a large portion of our spark, which is why we have these toned-down, dull, dim bodies that we do now. You know, it's not the way God designed them, though. Wow, we get straight off from the ghost, but I think it's pretty relevant. What do you guys... No, go ahead, man. Sorry.
Well, I was like, well, yeah, because I mean, if God is light, then we are made in his image. So therefore,
correct.
This light, this energy, you know, a portion of it is within us. You know, like you said, it's extremely muted.
Right.
It's watered down because we've marred ourselves by sin.
Yeah.
Right.
But eventually we're going to be able to have that light back. You know, we're going to be created new. And I think it's a whole lot of stuff we're going to understand at that point that we would never be able to understand nowadays. Yep.
Oh, yeah. Like that.
Or that we think we won't. We'll see, you know, depending on how much longer we have. More and more things are coming together to make to give us more understanding. For instance, the whole ether thing. It's very interesting because Ricky's been checking out alchemy lately, not practicing it, but understanding the history thereof and why it has been such a present part of humanity for the millennia. And we were talking about this the other night. All of the great scientists, and probably a whole bunch who, you know, have been lost to time and history, recognized that there is a whole spiritual realm that somehow coexists with our material realm. And one of the things you see with Nikola Tesla is that he is purported to have believed and maybe had proven that there was limitless energy that could be pulled from the ether.
Yep.
And
You can see experiments of this stuff online.
Oh yeah, you totally can. The one that he did in Denver, the one he did in New York.
Independent of him doing them, I mean, there are people that are like recreating this technology today still. Like, and
they have to be careful. A lot of them die.
Yeah.
A lot of them just up and die. And I'm not saying that the current entities that make good money off of selling us non-renewable energy don't have something to do with that, but there is limitless energy. I'm not saying that. I'm definitely heavily implying it.
Man, look, you talk about like Tesla and stuff. Like the night he died, like people, I don't know whether they were government agents or what, but they like busted into his lab and like seized everything.
You know who one of the people was?
They're not going to waste time and resources over something stupid.
That's irrelevant.
I mean, there was something that they wanted, and they knew it was there, and they went and they got it. There's no telling what it is.
Uncle John.
Yep.
Yeah. I do have a kind of a curious question for you guys. What do you think Samuel felt? Obviously, he was irritated as crap that he's being pulled up here, which is a very interesting phrase. I'd be very curious to see what the actual Hebrew says, because in English it says pulled up. We summon up. Now, quick, boring little linguistic tangent here. You guys will probably both like this anyway. I don't know why I'm saying it's boring. But so we have something in English that is fairly unique when it comes to language. We have something that are called phrasal verbs. And a phrasal verb, if you've never heard this term before, is a verb that's coupled with a preposition. So what do I mean? Get down, break up, fall off, jump into, right? And jump into might be a little bit, pushing it. But most languages don't have that. That's not a very normal way to speak. So it's particularly interesting that that's the phraseology in English from the original Hebrew, because Hebrew has like hardly any prepositions. And just so you guys know,
it's a very limited language.
It's super, super, super basic when it comes to prepositions. And just so you guys know, I don't want to bore you guys to death, but just some definitional stuff. A verb just is an action. A preposition just gives you, like, talks about directionality. That's all it is. So like above, under, on, over, in, etc. Okay. So when you combine those, you get
singing the Shirley song.
Yay! So when you combine them, you get this thing called the phrasal verb, and that's and I'm just pointing it out because it's a unique feature in English, and it kind of convolutes what the original. Well, it really convolutes what the original Hebrew was, because to draw up, well, I mean, those, if you separate those two words and you take them for their literal meanings in English, is a very weird thing to say, right? If you're drawing something on paper or on some medium, and then you're going up. Well, that's weird, right? That's just a curiosity of English, but I would be very curious to know what word was used in Hebrew. So anyway, we'll look it up in a second. But I only bring that up because I only bring it up. How about that? I only bring that up. That's another phrasal verb, because the word conjure up, right, or bring up or draw up implies that it's below, which makes me very curious about where Samuel was coming from.
No, that makes sense, because that's Sheol. Sheol is the place of the dead, and in every society has the place of the dead being below,
right?
The earth. Yeah.
Well, that's what I was thinking, but I didn't want to assume. I didn't want to assume that the Bible was written to me. I wanted to assume that it was written for me. So I went ahead and.
Well,
what do you guys? I'm sorry, Austin. I didn't mean to cut you off. Go ahead.
No. I was just going to say, this is a really good segue into talking about, the view of spirits in, Japanese culture.
Absolutely.
Which is what we're talking about here. The realm of the dead in Japan is known as Yomi. So, you and I are both gamers. There was a really popular game couple years ago called Trek to Yomi. It was about descending into the underworld.
Oh, that's nice.
So yeah, it's just like Shelley said, like it's the entrance is a cave and it's deep underground. And I mean, every society in history that you talk to, when you ask where's the land of the dead, very rarely, or if ever, do they say, oh, well, it's up in the sky, or it's in another dimension. It's always underground.
Yep.
Right.
Yep. I only have one more question. My only question for you guys is, what do you guys think that Samuel felt besides irritation?
Well, think about it like this. If he was righteous, and he was, then according to the parable of Lazarus and the rich man, that Jesus told, there seems to be a partition in Sheol. There's a side where the unrighteous go, and there's a side where the righteous go.
Right.
And where the righteous go, it seems like in some way they're in communion with God. Maybe not fully, because the ultimate sacrifice
or they're at rest.
I totally
at complete rest. And
I totally forgot about the story. This is so important. I'm so glad you mentioned it. Oh my!
The whole Old Testament, almost every righteous person who knew they were dying was at peace with it.
Good point.
Abram was at peace. Jacob was at peace, except that he did not want his bones to remain in Egypt, because he knew God had said there was a time limit on the sojourn in Egypt. And so he made Joseph swear that when they left Egypt, they would take his bones. But he was ready to enter the rest of his fathers. And then you see the same again with Moses. He knew what was happening and he was ready to go to his rest. Then you see it again with Joshua. I'm going the way of my fathers. Let me remind you all of all we have been through. And then, he gives the whole summation of the Exodus again. And then you see it with Elijah after the showdown with the 850 prophets of Baal and Ashtoreth. He's tired and he goes out into the wilderness and he lays under a broom tree and he says, Lord, can I just go the way of my fathers? I'm tired. I want to go the way of my fathers. And God does something, very different with Elijah. He's ready, he's ready to enter his rest. And, we know that God's plan was to catch him away. And we know that God made that known to other godly men, because as Elijah and Elisha are progressing all over the land, my gosh, they went hither and then yon and then back again the way they had come.
Don't forget thither.
Hither and thither and yon. The priests say to Elijah, God's calling away your master today. And Elijah's like, shut up, I already know this. But there's my point with all of this is that
that when he calls the bears on the kids? No, that's not that.
That's later on, after he is coming to his full power, and they call him
bald
head.
Oh yeah, I think that's funny, huh? Here's a bear.
Mama bear, you are up that creek. There ain't no paddles. Naughty children. But
dead children.
That's what happens to them.
Yeah,
they got murked. All of these righteous men, and we don't get many of the accounts of the righteous women, the matriarchs of the faith at their death. But from the men, they all have a sense of they are entering their rest. They are not afraid of death. Like, not one of them is like, oh, I don't know what's going to happen to me now. They're like, I am entering the rest of my fathers. And I think that says a lot about what happened with where Samuel was. He was in his rest. Now I know there are two schools of thought for what happens to our spirit when we die, whether we have a slumber, the dead in Christ shall rise, and
Right.
those who are awake will be caught up together with them in the clouds, or to be absent from the body is to be present with the Lord, which does not necessarily denote that there is no time between the two, but it's likely that to be absent from the body, then the next time you have consciousness, it is in the Lord's presence, and the in-between time is a rest.
You want to know what I think, though? And
I
this
do.
might actually blow you guys' minds. I think that both are true.
Yeah.
I think that when you depart this body, because time in the heavenly realm does not exist.
Right.
I think
Very
that
good
you
point.
basically transcend time, and you're there at the
Correct.
judgment seat of Christ.
Right.
Like,
nope, I can
can
totally get behind that, because linear time is not all encompassing for the whole universe, for all of the cosmos.
You just
not.
warp out
Right.
completely. Yep.
I actually, that's probably the most succinct description of what I've actually come to believe, is that I think both are simultaneously true, as are most things. It's the both and.
In which case, then Samuel would have been taken from the presence of the Lord, and I'd be pretty
awakened.
torqued.
Yeah. He's like, why am I here? Why am I awake?
Why did you bring me back to this place that I finally escaped?
Wow, that's interesting.
I would be not happy. I get that.
I mean, probably feeling a heaviness again. I mean, after we talked to John, right? And reading his book and just reading people's accounts of their post death experiences, right? Their real life experiences, as I like to call them. It seems like, man, I just never forget that guy's description. I know I say it all the time, but like, he says, I felt like I was being put back in the sewer when I came back to my body.
Yeah.
Like, gosh, dude, that's crazy. I imagine that's probably how, filthy, grimy, slow, obnoxious, hollow.
Think about that. Then from that viewpoint, that is what Christ entered.
I know.
For the joy set before him.
Golly.
That's such a cool thing. Like, it's so amazing the nuance of the sacrifices he made for us.
It's depth upon depth upon depth.
It truly is.
It's so profound. It's ridiculous. Like, and he didn't just show up like in our modern era where he had all the, indoor
amenities.
Plumbing and I mean, he was like in the filth and stench of the Roman Empire, right? And smack in the middle of Judea, where it was chaos and, obnoxious and violent people. They were really, honestly, looked down upon, like terribly looked down upon, like worse than when they were before the end of the old covenant, right? Like, they were like really not in a good position at all as a society, man.
And that's where he came to dwell and to make redemption for us. That's just amazing. He is such a good God. Like, for real.
Amen.
Yeah, well, I think that's. Is there anything else you guys wanted to add about that particular subject before we hop into duty?
Nope, I think I'm good.
I think I'm good, man.
Well, I guess I would just say I think that's kind of what I wanted to ask. I think what ghosts themselves are is not a one and done. I think it's really one of those things you have to look at on an individual basis. I think it's fair to say that all what we would call ghosts, and I think what we refer to, I think, vocabulary wise, like compartmentally in our brains, when we say ghosts, we mean a human departed spirit. I think that's what we mean, a disembodied human spirit. But I would say that that's kind of a newer convention, and I would just say that really all spirits are Elohim because that's what they
Yeah.
are, right? By
Right.
nature, by their very nature and virtue. And I think that you have to take each individual paranormal / supernatural encounter on an individual basis. Like I don't see
Yeah.
that it makes any other way, because this is weird, right? This one's really weird because I think this is the only time in the Bible where someone is actually summoned up. Their spirit
Where
is
a
actually
human spirit
summoned.
is conjured. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And so it's very weird to me because I'm so glad you mentioned that, Austin, about that particular example where the poor man and the rich man, right, are it's a parable, but it's not a parable. Like it's a real story
Right.
that was used as a parable, right? And so
Yep.
it's interesting because the rich man asks to go back and it's denied to him, right?
Right. Let
So
me go tell my brothers.
yeah, and Christ is like,
It
nah,
did no
bro, like,
good, buddy.
you know, there if all the evidence is in front of them and they don't want to believe, what makes you think you showing up is going to make them believe? And
Right.
that's what's always been such a conundrum to me is like, how does Samuel show up but this dude didn't show up? Well, I think it's kind of clear, right? Like an actual human spirit coming to this side is ultra rare. It's almost like you're going outside the natural boundaries to make that kind of thing happen, because otherwise it would almost never happen, I would
Right.
say. You know, except for except for out of body experiences. I mean, that's kind of a different phenomenon. That's kind of end of your life moment, right? Or potential end of your life moment. And
Well,
then
but then that's one is human intention and one is God intention.
correct. Agreed.
And
Very good
therein
point.
is the difference.
Very good point, right? And we clearly see when we have, and this is my opinion, right? I think you guys probably agree, though. When we have these out of body experiences, to me, it seems. Sorry, I haven't had one yet. Whenever
I'm
people
good,
have
thanks.
these, I'm all right.
Yeah, I don't really want to have one, honestly.
I mean, if God's controlling it, I'm got no problem. But whenever people have these out of body experiences, and we actually know people personally, you know, Karen is one that has had an out of body experience. My mom is one who's had an out of body
Right. Gosh, I
experience
can't wait
herself.
to hear your mom.
I know I've been meaning to sit down with her and do that interview, actually. But the thing here is it's just like you said, right? It's something that is controlled by God, and so it's not. It probably doesn't feel awkward. It like I'm sure Samuel felt like heavy and gross. Like that's what I think,
Oh
you
yeah.
know, because he wasn't supposed to be here. Like it was
Although,
not.
you know what? I would say it does feel awkward because what is it every time there's an angelic interaction with a human? What
Fall
are
down
they?
like Victor.
Right.
Don't be afraid,
Yeah.
right? Or Isaiah, woe is me,
Yeah,
or
I am undone. Right. What a
you
crazy
know,
phrase to say.
even John,
Yeah.
you know, same
Yeah.
same. It's there. So there is something that is very uncomfortable about
I think
this
I.
the spirit and the material
Yes.
coming together.
We talked about. I was trying to avoid talking about this again, but it's like plaguing my brain right now in a good way. I watched. Well, you sent it to me, Shell. You sent me the episode about blood rituals from that sixth century podcast,
Uh-huh.
and he starts talking about the nature of. Man, I really need to look up that guy's name and read his stuff, doggone it. He talks about the nature of physics and just, you know, atomic levels and the way atoms are structured. And he makes I think it's him that makes the comparison that says that if you were to take I want to say it's like a bean or something and put it right smack in the middle of a football field, the closest proton would be the end zone, the end of the end zone. If you take that same bean and you make it the size of a softball, the closest proton is 3 miles away. That's
That's the
crazy.
size of an
Yeah.
atom, and
Yes,
with the
proportionally.
comparison part,
Yeah.
right?
And so when he was talking about that, he says that we have this concept that spirits coming into our realm go through us, and the opposite is true. We go through them.
Yeah.
We are the hollowness. We are the actual hollowness, right? This is my belief. This is my personal belief. And actually, you confirmed it. We were talking, Shal, you, Jesse, and I on Tuesday, and actually this morning it came up again, and I was like, "What the heck, dude? I'm not even looking for it. It just keeps showing up." But the word talks about the wholeness of purity, and being able to interact with God requires wholeness, and that is associated with holiness. So holiness and wholeness are one and the same, if not they're at least correlative aspects that need to coexist. And so what makes so much sense to me is we see stuff like the Nephilim, right? When they come into this realm, they're highly dense. At least half of them is highly dense. So they're massive. I mean, their structures are massive, right? And ours are frail and small. And I mean, it really does line up with the way God has told us that this thing is going to play out, that we can see it. We see the deleterious degenerations across generations, right, through humanity. And I think we talked about this previously. But I really believe that the structure of atoms being so far apart literally lends itself to the fact that we lack density. And in other words, we lack wholeness to be in the presence of God, which is why our spirits are just fine when they're in the presence of God. They're surprised and blown away because he's amazing, but our bodies are completely undone. I mean, if you've ever watched any kind of, I mean, you were Presbyterian for a while, right? And I'm sure you've been in some situation where the Spirit is moving, even, and it's not to say, that Catholics or anybody else can't be charismatic, because that's obviously not true.
But you see,
me too, buddy. Me too, man. And I remember watching it one time on TV, and I was like, "That's wild, dude. That's so cool." Yep. And my point here is that you've seen the Spirit move on the body. The body does wild stuff. It does stuff that, and some people freak out. They're like, "Oh my God, it's flailing. That's not natural." I'm like, it's not natural. It's supernatural. Like, that's what happens to the body when it comes in contact with the spirit realm, which is more physical than our realm. Imagine being bulldozed by a spiritual truck. Like, that's what's happening to your body. It's not
right.
It's not
and
normal.
Adam and Eve, when they fell, there was immediate death. There's probably immediate death but there
loss of mass, right?
we lost a lot, and because we were born with the loss, we have always just assumed that all there is what we can sense. And that's so incomplete. And as science, like real science, progresses, as we learn more about the universe at the macro and the micro levels, at subatomic levels, we begin to see so much more of the character of God through the previously unseen things that now we can see to a degree and measure, with microscopes or whatever, with mathematics. And I think that will continue. And I mean, there's plenty of scripture to support it. The word tells us that in the latter days, that the understanding of man will grow exponentially. And we are definitely in some portion of that state for sure.
Yeah.
Well, there's a quote that I love by Werner Heisenberg, and it says, "The first gulp from the glass of natural sciences will turn you into an atheist, but at the bottom of the glass, God is waiting for you." And I mean, he was a quantum physicist. He was the creator of quantum mechanics. Actually, he won the 1932 Nobel Prize in physics. And I mean, if he's telling you this,
most physicists and most quantum physicists have zero problem believing in a creator, in intelligent design, because it's so stinking obvious that you cannot you can't poo-poo it away. It's an ignorance. It's ignorant people who can buy into the BS that chaos produced order.
Right?
No. Look, here's the thing, and this is one of my favorite things to talk about in apologetics, is it's almost like a two-way street. The bigger things get, the more complex they get. So you start, with humans, planets. I mean, you can just go all the way up. Black holes, the bigger they are, the more complex they get.
Right.
Well, for the longest time, scientists thought, well, things must get less complex the smaller they get.
That whole,
That's
single cell organism. Oh, it evolved from a single cell. Dude, a single cell organism. Amazon has nothing on a single celled organism.
Exactly. Like it is so intricately designed and so
so the smaller we go, the more complex it is as well. Yep. Yeah, I totally get what you're saying there. That is so true.
That's interesting, man. I mean, that's like, well, yeah, I mean, it makes perfect sense because I've never tried this because I don't really know the math behind it. I don't know if that's possible, but I mean, that's the way fractals work. Right. Mm-hmm. You can go backwards or forwards on a fractal and you'll get infinite complexity
because fractals do a great job of
some of the coolest things,
exempling how God is.
Yeah.
Like the amazingness of his being. I mean, I don't even have good words to use. He's just the manifold glory of his wisdom, man.
It's God and it's Friday, so there's that. So we're all tired. It's hard to do words. Any final thoughts, guys, before we end this bad boy out?
No, I think that's good. I think we'll see the complexity of a culture that venerates ancestors. I think we're going to see so much in the next part of this because Japan is such a
unique.
Well, because they venerate the dead, they venerate the ancestors so much. Yeah. They have so many. We were talking about this off camera, but they have so many more descriptors of the spirit realm because of it. Go ahead.
The irony of that, though, is they venerate everything else except the human life and the human experience. And there's a lot that I could go into with that, but I mean, you think about the suicide rate in Japan. If my supervisor was to call me tonight and be like, "Hey, Austin, your work performance ain't good, so we're gonna have to let you go," my reaction is gonna be, "Okay, that sucks.
Let me get on Indeed.
Let me get another job. I mean, I'm a registered behavior technician. I can get a job anywhere. It's not that big a deal." But a Japanese person has been taught by their society that anytime they fail, it's grounds for death.
Because so God forbid fail their society.
Right. God forbid you cut down a sacred tree, but it's totally okay to lay on some train tracks and off yourself. And don't even get me started on, the neurodivergence. Because I mean, like my area of ministry focus, and I'm hoping to start a ministry devoted specifically to this, the hikikomori, the shut-ins. A lot of these people are sweet, kind people that have ADHD or autism or something else going on, some kind of neurodivergence. But because they don't walk like everybody else, talk like everybody else, and think like everybody else, they're not welcome in that society. And it baffles me. And I love Japan. I love those people beyond what I can even understand. But at the same time, it just baffles me about how contradictory their worldview can be sometimes.
Yeah.
They probably have similar things to say about ours.
Right.
I'm sure of it. But I mean, when you take into account that the government of Japan is begging foreigners to come over and impregnate their women because people aren't having enough babies.
I mean, our government's not far away from that either.
I mean, I hate to say it.
Right. Yeah. Well, that's a weird way to end this, but I think it's where it's going to end.
You can scratch it out, man. You can scratch it out.
Nah.
That's my soapbox moment.
No, you're good, dude.
I think it's valid. It's totally valid.
Why don't you give the Aaronic blessing, Shell, and we'll bounce. Go ahead, Shell. You do the first part first.
The Lord bless you and keep you. The Lord make his face shine upon you and be gracious to you. The Lord turn his countenance towards you and give you peace. Amen.
Perfect peace.
The perfect peace. The shalom, shalom.
That's right. And we say, God bless.
God bless.
Shalom, shalom.
And Maranatha, guys.
Love you guys. Thanks for coming on, Austin.
Yeah, no problem, man.
Thank you for watching this episode of the Christian Theological Dark Web Podcast. For all questions, collabs, or comments, contact us at solo.to/thectdw or the Christian Theological Dark Web @gmail.com. To become a special access member or support our ministry, sign up on Spotify or Patreon. This has been another Four Dragons production from the CTDW. God bless, shalom, shalom, and Maranatha. Come, Lord Jesus.